Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to make a classic exploding barrel asset, and I'm going to model it in Blender, and then I'm going to import that into Substance Painter for texturing, and then I'll import that into Unreal Engine to do chaos fracturing and apply we're going to borrow the particle and sound effects from the starter content. Okay, so I'm going to get started modeling in Blender here, and I'll start by adding a cylinder. And I'm going to scale this a bit. I'll say SZ 1.5. And I'm going to go to modeling mode, press Control R, and I'll just hover over here to make a loop cut. I'm going to type in 10 actually though. I want to make 10 loop cuts. Press Enter, and I'll just press Escape here. Okay, and then I'm going to switch to Edge Select tool here. Clear my selection. I'll hold Alt and select one of these edge loops roughly in the middle here. I'll click here to turn on proportional editing, and I'm going to press S to scale, and I'll just scroll my mouse wheel here to make sure I'm covering the entire cylinder here. And so I want to put on this curve or bow on the walls of the cylinder, something like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and select my face select tool here, and I'll grab the top face, holding Shift. I'm going to also select the bottom face, and I'll press delete faces. And I'm going to switch to layout mode, and I'll right click here and go shade smooth, and I also want to go to the modifiers tab and add a solidify modifier, and I'm going to set the thickness here to 0.1. All right, and I'll apply that, and I'm going to go back to modeling mode, grab the edge tool and select with Alt and Shift. I'm going to grab all these outer rings here, the inner and outer ring for the top and the bottom of the barrel. And with those all 4 rings selected, I'll press Control B, 0.01, just a small bevel on those edges. And that looks a little better. Now, next thing I want to do is add a couple of like steel bands around the edge outside of the barrel here. So I'm going to use the Face Select tool, and I'll hold Alt and select this ring of faces, and then using Alt and Shift I'll select maybe this ring of faces as well, and I'll just press Shift D to duplicate those, and then I'll press Escape to leave those in place where they are. Right click, extrude faces along normals, and I'll type in maybe 0.05, or that's maybe a little much here, maybe it's 0.03. All right, that looks good. And then I'm just going to bevel those edges as well here. I'm going to use my edge tool and hold Alt and Shift and grab these outer rings here for both of the bands. Control B, maybe 0.005. Just a tiny bevel here to improve the light striking it. Looks quite a bit better. All right. So next thing I want to do here is add a lid for the top and the bottom of the barrel. So I'm just going to use the Edge Select tool here and hold Alt and grab this maybe second ring down from the, or first ring down on the inside here. And I'll just press Shift D to duplicate and Z to move it upwards. And then I'll just press F to make a face. And then I'm going to press E to extrude and just drag this up a little bit. And that's good. And then what I'm going to do here is select the bottom edge as well as having the top edge here, and just press Control B, maybe 0.01 for this small bevel. All right. And then before I duplicate the lid here for the bottom of the barrel, I'm going to go ahead and do my UV unwrap. And that way I can duplicate the lid with the unwrap already in place rather than do the work twice. So I'll start with the lid here, and I'll just grab this ring here and this ring here, and holding Alt and Shift here to select all these at once, I'll grab a single outer loop here, right click, mark seam, and I'll move on to the barrel here now. What I'll do is just hide these bands. I'll just press L on these bands here, press H. And then for the barrel, what I'm going to do is grab, I'll use Alt and Shift here, and grab an outer ring here and the inner ring here, And we'll just use any outer loop here on the outside, and maybe a ring there, and one more on the inside here. Okay, and so I'll unwrap the barrel like that. I'll right-click Mark Seam, and now I'll press L on the barrel here, and first I'll press Alt-H to unhide everything. Just select the barrel with L, H to hide that one, and now we'll unwrap these bands here. So I'm going to use Alt on just any edge loop here, and maybe we'll use one inside edge loop like that as well. Same thing here, I'll grab the same one on the outside here, Alt, and then the inside edge loop like that. Right click, Mark Seam, and Alt-H to unhide everything. Okay, and so it would have been better if I grabbed the same loop here and here, so maybe I'll just press Alt-Shift, right-click, Clear Seam, and there we go. Now our seams are going to line up, even though I'm going to use projection for the texturing. I'm not going to use UV mapping probably for the texturing anyway, but just for good measure, we'll put the seam at the same spot. Okay, so I'm ready to go ahead and duplicate my lid here. I'll press L on the lid, Shift D to duplicate, Z, and we'll just pop this down here at the bottom. And then I'll just deselect, press L on this top lid, and we've got to turn off proportional editing here. And then G, Z, and we'll put this right about here. Okay, so last thing I want to do is set up materials here. And so I'm going to use these materials as masks in Substance Painter. So I want to mask the caps here and the straps from the outside of the barrel. So what I'm going to do is I'll just go ahead to the Materials tab, and I'm going to add 3 new materials. And so I'll click the first material here and say New, and we'll call this the outside. We'll just call it the outside. And I'll set the color here to some random color. And I'll press L to select the outside of the barrel, and I'll click Assign. All right, and then I'll just press H to hide that. Select my next material here, New, and I'll call this Metal Straps. And I'll set the color here to another random color. And we'll just press L over both of the straps here and click Assign. Okay, and H to hide those. And the third material, New, I'm going to call this barrel caps. And I'll set this to another random color and press L to select both of those and click Assign. Okay, so Alt-H to unhide everything. And if I go to shaded mode here, we can see we've got our 3 materials set up. And so this is basically going to tell Substance Painter how to mask the different material layers that I'm going to want to apply here. But if I export this just as it is and I open this file in Substance Painter, it's going to make 3 separate textures. So if you're say you're making 4K textures, it's going to make a 4K texture for the barrel outside, and another one for the straps, and another one for these caps. And I don't really want to do that. What I want to do is I'm going to use a single layout here. I'm going to go to UV editing. I've got everything marked, so I'm going to press A and go UV unwrap. And if we look here, I'm unwrapping all of these parts onto a single texture layout. I want to use one 4K texture for the whole barrel. Or not even a 4K texture, a barrel, you would use, say, like a 2K texture probably. Okay, and so what I want to do here then is export 2 different copies of my model. I'm going to export this one as it is with the materials, and then I'm going to strip away these 3 materials and export it again. So I'm going to go here, File, Export, Export to an FBX, and I'll call this one barrel_mats. All right, and so now I'll also save maybe this as a Blender file so that I have my master copy with all my UV seams and everything that I could come back to and work on later. So I'll do that now, File, Save As. All right, and then finally, I'm going to strip away these three materials. I'm just going to press, go to Layout Mode, Materials tab, and press the minus here next to all the materials, and go to File, Export, and export again as FBX, and this one I'll just call barrel.fbx. All right, so I've started up Substance Painter now, and I'm going to go to File, New, and I've selected Unreal Engine 4 as my template, and I'm just going to leave the 2K document resolution. Make sure you have Auto Unwrap not selected. We've already unwrapped it ourselves. And I'm going to go ahead and select my barrel.fbx file. All right, so I've got the barrel loaded up here. And so the first thing that I want to do is go to Texture Set Settings, and I'm going to go to Bake Mesh Maps. I'm going to go to 2K, and I'm going to find, under High Definition Meshes here, I'm going to find my barrel_mats.fbx. All right, so I've got that plugged in here. And I'm also going to turn on anti-aliasing, maybe just 2 by 2, and go ahead and bake these selected textures. All right, so I'm ready to go here with texturing, and I'm not going to do anything too fancy here for this video. I'm going to keep it pretty simple. I'm just going to apply some wood planks here to the outside. Of course, it looks terrible to start with because of our UV seam here down the edge. But like I said, I was going to use projection, and I'm going to change that now from UV projection to, let's say, a spherical projection. And that looks much better. And so what I can do here as well is change the scale. Let's say maybe make the scale 2, maybe even like 1.5. That's a good width for those planks there, I think. And I also want to apply this only to the barrel outside. So I'm going to right click here, say add a mask with color selection, pick a color, and I'll just pick this green color. All right. So next thing I'm going to do here then is add some metal texture to these straps here. I'll find another material here, maybe this painted steel. Try that out. All right. And I'll again right click and add a mask with color selection, pick a color, and select just the straps. And that looks fine. And then one more for the cap here. So I'm going to go to Materials, and maybe just this solid wood here. And I'll right click, add a mask with color selection, and pick just the caps. All right, and maybe I'll change the scale here a little bit on that to look a bit better, maybe 3. Yeah, that looks fine. Okay, and so that's the basic idea here. Now I can go ahead and export this texture. I'll just go to File, Export Textures, and I'll export these to my desktop. Okay, so with the export done, I'm going to go ahead and import this mesh and these materials, or these textures, into Unreal Engine. All right, so I've got a first-person template project open here, and I'm going to start by importing my barrel.fbx and the 3 files that got output by Substance Painter there. I'll say do not create materials. I'm going to create it myself here. Import all. All right. And so what I want to do here is with the barrel base color, I'm going to right click and say create material. I'll just call this M_barrel, and I'll open that up, and I'll just drag in the normal map here. We'll plug that in, and I'll drag in the mixed packed map here, and this has the ambient occlusion in red, the roughness in green, and the metallic channel in blue. All right, so I'll apply that, close that, and I want to open up the barrel static mesh here. And I'll just apply that material here. Barrel. Okay, perfect. And so I'll close that, and might just need to scale this a little bit to be proper. Let's check it out here. Yeah, I think so. So something like maybe 0.3 might be the correct scale. We'll just take a look sort of in first person here. It still looks maybe a little large. I'll just go ahead and say 0.25 in all the axes for scaling on that. Yeah, that looks better. So what I actually want to do here is I'm going to just delete that. Or actually, no, I don't want to delete that. Control Z. I want to leave that in the scene and go to fracture mode. And what I'll do is say new, and just accept this save name here, create a geometry collection, and I'll go to uniform fracture, and we'll fracture it into, say, 20 pieces is fine, sure. Fracture, and go back to select mode. All right, so it's all fractured up here, and so now I'm going to go ahead and just delete this from the scene. I don't want this actor. I don't want this geometry collection in the scene. I'm going to create an actor for the exploding barrel. So I'll right-click here, blueprint actor, and call this B_exploding barrel. And I'll open that up here, and I'm going to add a geometry collection. And I'll select here the rest collection is going to be this barrel. And we'll also set, the scale's already been set. So this is fine, but I want to go to general here and say notify breaks. And then what I want to do is go to the event graph here. And we're going to right click here and say on break. And maybe add chaos here. Okay, on chaos break event. And this is where we're going to have the barrel explode. And we could also use the hit event here. So I could add, let's see, I'm not sure if the collision presets custom. I'm not sure if it's going to respond directly to hits. We could try it out here though. Event hit. All right, and what I want to do is spawn a actor from class, and what I want to spawn is a field that's going to cause the explosion here. So I'm just going to close this for a second and go to settings, show engine content, go to the engine folder here, search for FS_, and I want this master field. I'm going to press Control D to duplicate that. Call it FS_explode barrel, and I'll just drag that to my content folder. All right, so I'll turn off show engine content, and back in the content folder, I'm going to open FS explode barrel. And I want to adjust some settings here. So the activation type, we're just going to put it to on tick. Delay amount 0, just for good measure. And that's pretty good for now. We'll go back to the exploding barrel blueprint. Select FS_explode barrel as the actor we're going to spawn here. And I'll just break this pin here, split the pin I should say. For the location, we'll put in the hit location. And then I want to spawn an emitter at location. And I want to just select the, I don't have the starter content added here, so I'm going to go to my content folder, add feature or content pack, add the starter content. All right, and so now I can select here the explosion particle and plug in the same hit location here as well. And one more thing, we'll spawn sound at location, and we'll make the explosion sound cue. All right, and we'll drag this over here as well for location. All right, so let's give it a try here. Let's close this, and we'll put a couple B_exploding barrel actors. Oh, it looks like I'll have to adjust the mesh here. We'll just drag this up 50, compile, close. All right, and now let's see if these are working yet. See if we can hit these with the gun and make these explode. Whoa, all right. So, yeah, I think there's one thing we have to do here. I'm just going to go back to the exploding barrel blueprint and just back these events up here. I'm going to put in a do once node. So really we only want to blow up one time. And that should help out there. All right. Now we'll do some volume up here as well, and I'll give it a try again. Yeah, not too bad. The explosion is a little bit small here. I'm going to go ahead and change the scale on that to maybe, let's say 2.5 in all the dimensions. And we'll take one more look at that. Oh yeah, all right. So there we had one barrel hit the other barrel and caused it to explode. Perfect. That's pretty much the exploding barrel asset built from scratch. I modeled, textured, and set that up with chaos fracturing and explosion field, and borrowed the explosion particles and sound, of course, from starter content. So that wraps it up for the video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.